Okay, good afternoon, everybody. You are welcome to this particular class.
Good afternoon, sir.
I haven't gone for a whole week. I hope we are back
Good afternoon, sir.
in full force.
Good afternoon,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, without wasting further time, since we have reached 200 in the class, I want to encourage everybody to please mute your microphone until I ask you to speak. Let's maintain decorum, silent decorum in this particular class. Though we are many, I could hear some people say, oh, they cannot try it in another class. Because in that other class, how many are we? And this is a general class. We cannot bet to give freedom one way or the other, because it's a general study course. And I want us to just tolerate ourselves and give ourselves just a little bit of accommodation. It is when we are now proving more than necessary that we do that which is needful to remove that person entirely from the class. So I want to welcome you again, and therefore, little by little, we are going to the end of the facilitation. Maybe after today, we have only 2 more facilitations to go. But by way of recapping what we did last week, Saturday, when I brought in 8 o'clock, I want us to quickly look at what we did last week. And I want a lady and a man to remind us of our discussion last Saturday. So from there, we take on our today's discussion. Yes, Esther AJ is always there. He has raised her hand, and Reverend, so I recognize the 2 of you. So let Esther, can you please?
Okay. Good afternoon, sir.
Some tidbits on what we did last week. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. What we talked about ways of learners last week. We talked about visual.
We are only looking at your fan. We can't see your face.
Okay, sir. I don't know. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Okay, we talked about visual learner, auditory or oral learner, then verbal learner, tactical or kinetic learner, which is the same thing with learning by doing. Then learning things by heart and all that. So you asked us to choose the one we are used to, and why are we using it? I personally talked about learning by doing, which is the tactical or kinetic learning, that I do better when I do it physically or practicalize it. It retains more in my memory. That is the little I have to contribute.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam AJ.
Thank you,
for
sir.
giving us some of the learning styles that we went through last week, talking about the auditory, talking about the visual, talking about the kinesthetic, so and so on. And therefore, we did emphasize to us that we need to look at ourselves and look at the content that we want to learn, so as for us to really know what is the best approach that we are going to use to learn. And you must be yourself when you are actually when you are really taking your learning style. You must know that you are the one that knows yourself better than any other person. So I encourage you to use the best approach that you need to have, so as for you to learn better. Yes, Reverend Ode.
All right, good afternoon, sir.
Can you introduce yourself better?
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
All right, my name is Reverend Henry Ode. an MSc student, public health.
From which study center?
Uyo Study Center, sir.
You are welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. All right. Last week, just in a bit to recap what we actually did last week, we also talked about that we also have people who learning by deducing. That means that there are people who enjoy solving problems rather than being, told about the problem. We also talked about that there are people who learn in an environment, no matter how the environment looks like, whether it is noisy or disturbing, they suit in every kind of environment to learn. We also talked about there are those who cannot learn in a noisy environment, but if the environment is not silent, they don't cogitate and assimilate what they are reading. So it is advisable that we know our kinds of environment and how environment suits us best in our learning. We also talk about our working place. That
And I sat down there.
There are people who can learn more in their
holding.
working place. They can read more in their working place than in the house.
I think you left it in the locker.
So they can learn more in their working place because of the serene environment. So they can learn more from there. More so, we also talked about that there are those who are best learner when they are alone. They don't need distraction. They learn alone and they get it more by learning alone. But there are also those who cannot learn alone, but they learn more if they share ideas together. We have such people. And above all, I'd like to conclude by saying that we also say that there are people who have short-time memory in learning, and there are those who have long-time memory in learning. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. You have really gone even beyond the syllabus.
Thank you, sir.
You have even gone beyond the syllabus. Okay, thank you very much. I think I recognize you, Mr. Abiodun and Franklin, but because of our time, let's just start our discussion for today. This particular day, we are looking at something that is also very, very important. You asked me the question, which of our content is not important then? Everything is all important. But at the same time, as we are looking at them, we are bringing them to fore to enable us to discuss together so as for us to get better understanding why we are reading and studying our course material. So today, what we are discussing is very, very simple, and it is what every one of us, we have actually been doing. You cannot get to an MSc or master's class without being assessed one way or the other. There is nobody here in this particular class that will say, I just jumped to master's class without writing assessment. So all of us at one time or the other, we have sat for assessment, we have completed assessment, we have undertaken assessment. Even some of us are even administrators in assessment and evaluation. But why is this particular module very, very important to us? It is important to us because as ODL, you will find out that our ways of doing things are very, very different from the conventional institutions. And because of that, we still need to look at how do we do it in an open and distant learning environment. What are the uniqueness of the assessment and evaluation that we are really undertaking? And how do you, as a student of open and distant learning, be able to gain better and also able to assimilate by giving yourself into those assessments and also come out in flying colors at the end of the day? So we're only going to look at 2 units today in this particular module, and that is module 1 and module 2. So that is our focus today. Module 1, unit 1, module 3, unit 1 is overview of assessment in ODL. So we really want to have a general conceptual framework of how assessment look like in an open and distance learning environment. And of course, we'll briefly look at the unit 2 that talks about instructional-based assessment modes in open and distance learning. So these are some of the things we are going to look at, and therefore your contribution and your teaching will actually go a long way to guide other students that are in the class. So let's take them one by one. Overview of assessment in ODL. So by way of guiding you to the discussion, when you are talking about assessment in ODL or assessment generally, how will you explain the word assessment? Franklin, let me start from you because I did not call you the other time. Mr. Nweke, when you are talking about assessment, what can you say about assessment, please? Okay, Mr. Yes, Mr. Franklin, I want you to speak, please. Mr. Franklin, are you hearing me? Okay, if he's not hearing me, then I'll go to Mr. Olusegun. You are raising your hand. Samuel.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Yes, what can you say about assessment?
Assessment is a way of getting feedback, and it goes a long way, not only for the students, also to the institution and also to the teachers. It's a way to know how far the students have learned. With that assessment, there can't be any form of certification. So assessment is very, very important. It also serves a way of motivation to the student to know how far the student is improving. You can easily see if I'm improving. It also serves a way of to show indication of a difficult area. For example, you did a test and you know you didn't do well. You can go back to know which area you have difficulty. Without assessment, that will not be possible. So assessment also serves a form of indicator for the teacher to know maybe the mode of teaching is all right or not. If general student perform very bad, the teacher can go back.
Look at their voice.
Hey,
Hello?
they don't come up.
Can I continue, sir?
Mute your mic.
All right. So it's a way of giving indicator to the teacher, also the institution. If the teacher realize that maybe the student perform woefully, they can now go back and restart it, have a new strategy of passing the information across the student, of teaching and learning. So in conclusion, assessment is a process of completing the circle of teaching and learning, to my understanding. Without assessment, the circle of teaching and learning will not be complete. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Idowu. Assessment shows us how far we are performing in a learning situation. Assessment makes us to identify the area of difficulties that we are having in the context of learning. Assessment also serves as an indicator for teachers themselves to measure the effectiveness of the instructional strategies and methods and approaches they are using. So, and he said, actually, assessment is at the center of learning. So thank you very much. That's a wonderful contribution.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Christopher Bako, what do you have to say? Mr. Christopher Bako. Okay. As if you are not ready. Okay. Mr. Who is that? Isuchuku. Unmute yourself. Isuchuku.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Assessment is the systematic basis for making inferences about the learning and development of students. Can you hear me, sir?
Please carry on.
Assessment is the systematic basis for making inferences about the learning and development of students. Hello? Hello?
Yes, continue now. Isuchuku, are you okay? Is that all? Is that right? Let me go back to Ambali.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Ambali,
Well
I'm
done,
sorry.
sir. Yes, sir. Assessment simply means a means of evaluation. Tools used in evaluating, or a measure or a medium used in evaluating to know whether the student is getting what teacher is teaching them, and to know by the teacher, for the teacher to know maybe strategy, technique, effective.
I'm not hearing you well.
You cannot hear me, sir?
Okay, carry on now.
Okay, I said assessment is simply means of evaluation. The teacher can use it to evaluate the students. Maybe the learning is taking place. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
And also the teacher can use it to know maybe the teacher is using the right strategy or technique. Teacher will use it to know maybe his teaching technique is effective.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ambali, for that contribution. You are talking about assessment, you are talking about evaluating, you are talking about measurement.
Don't know why.
And all these particular three that you are mentioning, there are different terms that we really need to clarify them. Okay. So who is going to clarify between assessment and evaluation? Are they the same?
Okay.
As Ambali has told us, are they really the same?
They are not the same.
They are not the same, sir.
Okay. Then what is the difference?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Can I go ahead, sir?
Who is speaking, please?
Olusegun Samuel Dowu.
It's okay.
Assessment is not complete and cannot be complete without evaluation. I think evaluation is after the assessment is done. Evaluation is majorly used for placement or to categorize the level of progress, to differentiate the level of progress students have attained, the level of achievement students have attained. Evaluation is needed in that area.
All right. Thank you very much,
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Idowu. You know, the discussion of Ambali has brought in another dimensions to assessment, because she said assessment is a way of evaluating, is a way of measuring. And these particular three terms, they are interwoven, but they are not fitly the same. And as Mr. Idowu emphasized, that assessment cannot be completed without evaluation. I also agree with him. So that is telling you that the three terms, assessment, measurement, and evaluation. They are key concepts in ascertaining the attainment and the progress of your learners. Whether you are a teacher or as a student, you will want to know the progress. You want to know how far, as somebody told us the other time. But when you are talking about assessment, assessment is just the process of, somebody says systematic way. I love that. Because you don't do assessment haphazardly. You don't just wake up one morning and say, I want to do assessment. No, assessment must be systematically carried out. And in assessment, you are using different types of assessment tools to ascertain the level of attainment that the learners have actually achieved. And when you use different types of tools, you can use a test. You know, if you are measuring cognitive achievement, you use tests, you give tests. You know, we can give you TMA, is cognitive, it's a form of assessment. And also, aside that, you may also want to ascertain other domains of learning, like affective and psychomotor system of learning. And you can also use questionnaire to measure the attitudes, the interactions, the exposure, the motivation, as somebody mentioned, also the interest of your learners in the class. So you find out that when you are talking about assessment, it is only the process and systematic way of using different kinds of tools to ascertain the cognitive and non-cognitive behaviors of the learners. Also, when you are talking about measurement, when you are carrying out assessment, maybe you use a test for the assessment. At the end of the day, you decide that this particular test, the maximum score of a student is going to be 10 marks, like our TMAs now. Each TMA carries 10 marks. So at the end of the day, you are going to be scored TMA by TMA. And when you are now being scored, you are doing what is called measurement. That is, you are ascribing numbers to whatever thing that you have attained in that particular aspect of your assessment. So somebody will get 10-10 in TMA 1 and get 8/10 in TMA 2 and also get 10-10 in TMA 3. So the assigning of the number to that particular magnitude of your performance, that is what is called measurement. So at the end of the day, I want to classify you. Maybe you are having positive attitude, high positive attitude, low positive attitude, or medium positive attitude. For me to be able to do that, I must assign number to your attitudinal behaviors. And at the end of the day, I will say, well, you score so-so number, so-so score in your attitude. Then I cannot classify you as high, medium, or low. But when you are talking about evaluation, evaluation is an umbrella of everything. You know, you cannot carry out evaluation without doing what we call assessment. And you cannot carry out evaluation without actually measure. You must measure the traits that you are really looking for. So evaluation now will now tell you that, okay, the scores and the data you have gathered from assessment, the data you have gathered from measurement, process them. After you have processed them, therefore, take a decision. No, in assessment, you don't take a decision. In measurement, you don't take a decision. But at the end of the day, when you are now doing evaluation, your evaluation results must make you to take a decision on that particular child. And no wonder why.
You guys, please mute your speakers now,
I'm going to
please.
look at something like excellent. If a child is an excellent student in the class. Oh, that child is an excellent student. As I attended one, they invited me for a FES in one school yesterday in Ibadan here. And therefore, you know, I was the one that gave the FES paper. And therefore, I could see that some students were given prizes as the best students in each of the classes, as the best students in each of the subjects. So they cannot abuse being best to any student without doing what we call evaluation. So when you are not adjudged to be the best student, that's a decision. So before they take that decision, they have done assessment, they have done measurements, and therefore they now go on to evaluate the students and adjudge that the students as best in that subject or best in that class. So that is the thing. But the three of them are actually interwoven. You cannot remove one from the other. And also, for each of the processes to be completed, you must actually use all of them together. Now, somebody was asking us, what are the types of assessment that we have? Look at this. We said the purpose of assessment is to increase quality. Can you see that?
Yes.
When you are carrying out assessment, what are you doing? You are increasing quality. And therefore, you want to include and improve the quality of reading, the quality of learning, the quality of skills, attainment, and everything. But when you are evaluating, what are you doing? You are judging. You are judging the quality. You want to see of what level is that particular quality. Is it actually excellent? Is it very good? Is it good? Is it fair? Or very low? That is what evaluation will do for you. But when you are carrying out assessment, you want to improve the quality of something. But at the evaluation level, you are now becoming a judge. You have to judge. And that is where the decision making I emphasized earlier on came in. For you to a judge in a court, after receiving all the evidences that is actually levied against that particular criminal, at the end of the day, there's going to be a decision by the judge. And the judge will now take that decision either to sentence or to give the penalty that is required to the offense that have been committed. So that is the difference between evaluation and assessment. Also, there are some things when you want to do assessment, there are some things that you need to take care of. Number one, you must know who are your target audience to assess and what are the learning targets. So you cannot assess somebody without knowing them, the group and the audience, and also the learning targets that you really want to assess in that particular child. Number two, you must know the type of assessment techniques that you want to use. Are you now going to use a test? Are you going to use assignment? Are you going to use projects? Are you going to use homework? Are you going to use practical assessment? Are you going to use questionnaire? Are you going to use an interview? Are you going to use a sociogram? Are you going to use any form of assessment that you want to use? You must actually know the techniques. Number three, you must select assessment tools. You know, when it depends on what you want to measure. If you want to measure the knowledge, that's an assessment tool that you need to employ. If you want to measure the non-cognitive, there is also tools that you really need to also see, to use. And you must ensure that the tool that you are using is in line with what you want to measure. Then you must also use multiple indicators of achievement. So you don't just say, well, by the time you are assessing, you assess higher knowledge, medium knowledge, and low level knowledge. So when you are setting your questions, there should be some questions that are for low level. There are some questions that are average level. There are some questions that are for, the go-getters, that is higher achievers. And because of this, you have to indicate that in your assessment and be able to take care of all these particular levels of assessment. Also, you need to take the limitation of the results of assessment into account, because when you are interpreting the result of your assessment, it may be difficult for you if you don't take note of the limitations. So, and the limitations are some results. Why are you getting the results? If I give you a test now, and I found out that 90% of the students failed the test, and now I join all of you to be a failure, that is a wrong assumption. So I need to go back and look at why is it that all of you, 90% of you actually failed the course. So what I'm going to do, I will look at the content. Is the content so tough? I will look at the items of the questions that I gave you. Are they ambiguous? Then I will look at you as students also to know whether you as a student, whether you really prepare for the test. So at the end of the day, I will now be able to know where is that particular problem is, instead of just, make a general conclusion that you are a failure. But in assessment, you also assess for different purposes. When you are doing assessment, your assessment or evaluation may be for selection, it may be for placement, it may be for guidance and counseling, it may be for, it may be for instructional management, it may be for certification, it may be for classification. So somebody mentioned, it helps the teacher to manage themselves and to know whether their instructional approaches are actually okay. So you may place the students in their various classes. You may also guide them also, and also you can give
time.
Please, before the lecturer comes back online, those of you that have not used your mic, please make sure you do that. Please, it's just so annoying.
Very annoying. I don't know why people behave like children.
Just tired. This is not postgraduate class.
And for clearance sake, if your mic is showing mute, it means you have not muted yourself. When it shows on mute, that is when you're off. It seems some people don't know the difference. Please check.
You are right, my sister. You made
not
a
used to this technology. Then why is they sign up?
It's true.
Much at a time, so you
right.
can take one after the other. This is a matured class, and some person may even be doing that due to error. When
Hello.
Easy.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Please help us to mute them. Mute everybody, sir. Please, sir. Help us
I
to
see
mute
on
them.
muting themselves. Just mute them. Like now I've muted everybody, but they will still put on their mic. So, and this is a mature class, but it doesn't matter. However mature or whatever be the age, some people still behave like children. No wahala. So,
He said it comes another.
Are we good to go?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are
Okay,
here.
thank you very much. So sorry for the break in transmission. Yeah. Okay, so what we are trying to emphasize is that you must decide for which purpose are you really giving this assessment that we are talking about. You must decide, is it for placement? Is it for classification? Is it for research purpose? Is it for guidance and counseling and so on and so forth? Now that will lead us to types of assessment. Now we have what we call assessment for learning, assessment of learning, assessment as learning. And we have main differences and principles that actually guide them. The three types of assessment, they are very germane for your study. But when you are undertaking assessment for learning, you are doing what we call formative assessment. And this formative assessment as a learner, it will help you to actually learn better. I could remember in those days, one of my lecturers that gave an inaugural lecture that students may learn better. That was the title of the inaugural lecture. And what he was trying to talk about is formative assessment. And in formative assessment, you give that assessment throughout the course period. It may be in form of tests, it may be in form of practicals, but the thing is that you want to use that assessment to improve student learning. That is the purpose. And that is assessment for learning. We also have assessment of learning, and that is summative assessment. And in this type of assessment, what do you do? It is an assessment that you give at the end of the period of study. At the end of the period of study, you are given a test. Like this semester now, you will be given an exam. And everybody will be made to sit for the exam. And the exam comes towards the end of the semester, after all the learning are taking place. So what you are taking at that particular time is assessment of learning. So we want to see what you have learned throughout the semester. What we want to identify and collect evidence of this, your knowledge, the knowledge you have attained, the skills you have acquired during this particular semester. And it's always coming at the end of the learning period. But when you are talking about assessment as learning, there are some of us that are taking it as our preoccupation, as our field, to be a practitioner in assessment. And because of that, you take assessment as a discipline to study, as a place where you can study, where you can gain knowledge, and also be an authority in the area of assessment. So for such people, they are doing what we call assessment as learning. So they want to make assessment to be their field of studies. And we have so many of us around today. Now, we go to the next thing in our discussion, and that is Unit 2 on, let me look at it, on instructional-based assessment modes. So, and that is formative assessment. Because of the importance of this assessment for learning, we really want to look at what are the instructional-based assessment modes that are actually very, very peculiar to you as open and distance learning. And they are just two. We have what we call self-assessment, we have tutor mark assignment. And I will add another one, and that is your portfolio assessment. So all these are instructional-based assessment methods or strategies or modes for open and distance learning students. So I want somebody to differentiate between self-assessment and tutor mark assignment.
Can I try, sir? Can I try?
Just raise your electronic hand, please.
Oh.
Yes, Mr. Ogara, are you there? Please, if you don't want to answer my question, put down your hands. I only want to see the hands that are up. Yes, Mr. Ogara, you are here.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, Ogara is a female. Helen, sorry.
Yes, it's a female, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, yes, my name is Helen Ogara. I was from Gariketo Study Center. You asked us the difference between assessment,
self-assessment and tutor mark assignment.
Yes. The difference between self-assessment. Self-assessment is the assessment that you, as an individual, as a student, assess yourself based on what you have learned from the study. But tutor mark assignment is what the answer that you have answered, what you have answered, what the teacher have. Hello, sir, you with me?
Yes, continue.
The assessment that the teacher assess the student based on the result that he gets based on his own personal assessment.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ellie.
Is personal. Why the tutor? Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. You have said everything. You have said everything. Another person say something. Yes, Amogu, Kalu, Amogu. Okay, if Kalu is not answering us, let's go to another person.
Yes, sir.
Are you there, Kalu?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Let us hear you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, we are not hearing you well. Okay.
Hello, sir.
We are not hearing you.
Hello.
Yes, who is that?
It's me, Henry.
Oh.
Can you hear?
Hello.
Sir, can I answer now?
Who are you?
Hello, this is Honor Rosemary, sir. Hello?
Rosemary, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, self-assessment is an assessment made by oneself after a lecture or at the end of the semester. Are you with me, sir?
Yes.
Then tutor assessment is the assessment made by the lecturer to the student after the end of the semester or after a topic taught by the lecturer.
Determine the understanding.
They affect the students on the performance.
Okay.
You understand, sir? Yes, sir. That's the self-assessment. Thank you, sir.
Very much.
God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Joshua, anyone?
Yes, sir. Okay, self-assessment for my own understanding. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity, sir. Self-assessment from my own understanding is a way of a learner to measure his or her own understanding of the lecture, whether ongoing or at the end of all the process. Whereas tutored mark assignment or assessment is the one where the tutor or the facilitator tries to understand the extent or the process or how far the learner has gone in understanding the process and measure or rate the tutor or the learner in that aspect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Victor Uwachuku. Mr. Victor. Mr. Victor Chuku. Okay. Miriam, you have the floor. Miriam Muhammad. Don't waste my time when I call your name, please. Don't waste my time.
Can I come in, sir?
Miriam, yeah.
Hello.
Hello, I'm hearing you.
My name is Mohammed and I'm Miriam from Lokoja Center.
Yeah.
With my own little understanding, sir, self-assessment is an assessment after each class or after the whole semester to ascertain if he or she has really understand what the lecturer or the facilitator have said. While tutor or computer math assessment is done by the lecturer that took the course at the end of every section or semester. That's the little understanding I have, sir.
No, that's not little. That's great. That's great.
Thank you, sir.
Victor, now you have the floor. Mr. Victor. Mr. Victor, you have the floor now.
I want to contribute.
Hello, sir. Can I come in now, sir?
Who is that? Yes, that's my coming. Who are you?
That's what got to be the
if I have
okay, sorry.
I don't mean for that.
No worries, sir.
Mr. Garuba. Garuba Natu Musa. All right. That's one person. Okay, I'm only looking at.
Can I speak?
Yes, you can speak.
Okay, this is Reverend Henry Ode from Oyo Study Center, sir. Can I go ahead, sir? Okay,
go
yes,
ahead.
yeah, self-assessment has to do with the activities of a learner or a student to know how well he or she have understood the study or the learning, while the tutor or computer mark assessment is the ability for the student or the learner to reciprocate back to the tutor has taught them. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for that wonderful contributions. And therefore, just to, by way of summarizing all that you have said, we are talking about self-assessment, and you have all said it well. And that is what I captured, captioned, assess yourself. Nobody is assessing you now. You yourself assess yourself. If you look at your course material, there's always a self-assessment exercise or self-assessment question. After you have gone through a unit of study, then the facilitator or the tutor has put these questions there for you to answer. It is expected that you close your course material at this time and answer the questions. And after you have written down the answer, you are going to assess yourself by scoring yourself and going back to the course material and see, how did I define assessment? How did I explain evaluation? Is it in line with what is in the course material? Am I really going at par with what is inside the study material, or I can give myself 10-10, 5/10, and so on? So you are the judge of yourself. You are the evaluator of your work. You are the assessor of your study. And we also call it in-test questions because they are embedded in your course material, and you come across them as you are doing what? As you are reading the course material. Then, as we have said also, we have what we call tutor marked or computer marked assignment. When this particular university started, it was tutor marked assignment. And because the tutor will give you that assignment, you return the responses to them, and they are going to score you. They will mark you by themselves and give you the score at the end of the day. And they will give you feedback. You are going to see what you score. But now that we are now in technology advanced environment or dispensation, what are we going to do? Should I still continue to do marking for 4,000 GST807 students when I give you assignments? I won't be able to accomplish that. So the best way is now to employ technology to help me assess you, and immediately you see your feedback. That's the reason why some of us can say, yes, I saw my TMA score. I know I scored 10-10, TMA 1, 10-10, TMA 2, 10-10, TMA 3. Why should I fail at the end of the day? So, and these assignments are given to you. It is instructional based because it is during the course of your studying and reading. And by the time you do your tutor mark assignment, if you are not performing well, you still go back to that particular course material to see the areas of difficulties with a view to actually readjusting yourself. But some of us today, when we are doing our tutor mark assignment, we carry our textbook, or you even ask somebody to help you to do it. And at the end of the day, you get 30-30 in course in the assignment. I've seen in this particular course that somebody who scored 30-30 and still got 35, still got 31% at the end of the day. Some even scored 0 in the exam because they were not the one that completed the tutor mark assignment by themselves. So they scored very well there, but because they did not study, the exams actually failed them. So it is this assignment is given to you so as for you to really do what? To really learn better. That's the reason why we call them instructional-based assessment. You self-instruct yourself as your tutor is also instructing you. You read and study, and at the end of the day, you get the best out of the study. There is another one we call portfolio assessment. This particular assessment is a unique assessment now, where in which majority of us are students, ODS students for that matter. You know, when you see somebody who is an accountant, we have so many accountants in the class. We have so many lawyers in the class. We have so many professionals in the class, and they go on with their briefcases, and all their documents are there. Literally speaking, that is what portfolio assessment means. Portfolio assessment is nicknamed behind that particular portfolio that we carry. And I said it is an effective way for you to monitor your own learning. You keep your learning. You keep the material for learning. When you draw something, you put it in that particular portfolio. When you do TMA 1, you go and put the result inside the portfolio. When you do the self-assessment and you score yourself, put it inside the portfolio. If you do your TMA 2 and the score, put it inside the portfolio. When you are given practical assessment or assignment, when you finish the assignment and you also submit to your lecturer, you keep the duplicate inside the portfolio. At the end of the day, a lecturer or a tutor will be interested in asking you to bring your portfolio to see the level of your work at the end of the day. And therefore, he will now going to assess you based on the documents and materials that you have actually studied and put inside your portfolio. So it is the content of that particular portfolio that is going to be assessed at the end of the day. So what we are saying really is that as an ODL student, You don't actually study a material and throw it away. You know, have somewhere a safe where you are keeping all your study materials. And as you are writing your chapter 1 of your thesis, you go and put it inside your portfolio. As you are writing chapter 2, put it inside your portfolio, because a time will come, if you don't have something like that particular portfolio backup, if anything happens to the original document, you will not be able to retrieve it again. So you must develop, but as an assessor of your portfolio, they need to develop a rubric, what they are going to use to really assess your portfolio. So what we are saying really is this: your portfolio may be manual, your portfolio may be electronics. You may even create a folder on your system where is actually called portfolio of your work in each of the courses that you are writing. Any assignment given to you, you go and keep it there. But as an assessor, we don't call it folder. We call them, electronic e-portfolios, where you can go there and quickly retrieve. And if there's any need for you to review them, to reassign them, to actually reassess them at any time, you go back to your portfolio and therefore do the needful. So what we are saying really is that when you are using portfolio, it will help you to reflect back, to remember what has happened in the immediate past in your study. You will not be able to forget your study. You will not be able to forget some procedures that you have actually passed through during the course of your study. So I want to thank you very much for today. I think we have done a lot. Should we call it a little? Because we are going to get so many other things any other time. So I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Sir, are we going to get the slides, sir? We're going to get the slides.
Get the recorded copy of this class.
You have the recorded copy. Go to your course page. You can still view it again.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
sir. Very much, sir. Thank you. We are grateful. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the
Listen to this announcement.
God bless you, sir.
Listen to this announcement, please.
Thank you, sir.
Next week, we are going to Unit 3 and 4. I mean, we are going to Module 3, Unit 3 and 4 next week. Number 2.
Please, everybody mute your mic so I can hear the announcement.
Excuse me, we cannot get the less our noise.
Thank you very much.
So I am going to send a survey to your emails. I will send a survey to your emails. So you are going to complete the survey. If you see any survey in your email, it's from me. So you have to do it and return back to me. So I will send it to you on Google Form. And when you complete it, just save it, and therefore I will get it back. You will get it back to me. So it's a sort of a questionnaire which I want you to complete. And I will send it to you online. When you receive it on your mail, know that it is from me. So I'll see you next week. Module 3. Unit 3 and 4. That is what.
If anybody don't get it,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And
Thank you very much.
What is your question, please?
But what of if somebody don't get the question?
What if?
Then it means that you don't have an email.
He told us earlier, and I say he's going to send the visitor.
Or your email is not active.
Sir, how about getting the slides for the
ensure that your email
this
is
class,
active. You must ensure that your email